Yeah, proof of
That's the way it is.
failure allows you to prove a concept to success, right? So,
Yes.
I mean, without
Yeah.
failure on so many levels, you are just, I agree. I hear exactly what you're saying. You are allowed. I mean, if we always succeeded in our first endeavor every single time,
It's the
I
worst thing
mean,
for you. You don't
yeah,
learn
without
nothing. You think you're
yeah,
good.
without strife. Exactly. I mean, just imagine our forefathers having not struggled on some level to conceptualize freedom, right? We all can feel what freedom is, right? We know
Right.
if we're free or not,
Right.
and
Right.
if it's only affecting you and you're
Hmm.
free, then everybody else be damned.
I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign.
Alrighty then, what is up out there, everybody? This is your boy faqthemadness. I am here with a recently found, discovered friend. His name is Walt. Um, we met each other in a kind of a seminar. I reached out to him. He had I don't know if he got any response from anybody else, Walt, but he said he was going to reach out to me. He did. Probably was trying to going to sell me something, and we ended up deciding that we are going to, get together and talk. So,
Yeah,
uh,
man. Thank you
why
for
don't you
having me on the show.
no problem. Why don't you introduce yourself? Tell us a little
Sure.
bit about yourself, and we'll get into what we're going to talk about.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, man. So my name is Walter Hebert, and I'm the president of PrometheanLink, and my website is PrometheanLink.com. I do web services, artificial intelligence, and I'm getting into drone services. So those are my three trifectas of technology, but mostly what we do is technology. I like the name Promethean because I love fire. I love the idea that artificial intelligence is like fire, and link because that's what I do. I link things. If you got a website and you got a system, I want to connect them. I like making connections.
Nice. Now, I didn't ask you this before, and I actually do love the name Promethean. It sticks. In fact, after I had heard the name Promethean, I think in the very beginning I was like, I couldn't remember exactly what it was. But where exactly does that name come from?
So Prometheus was the Greek god of fire who was a titan. And he was somewhat semi-rebellious. He created the human race, and he wanted to give fire to the human race. And Zeus was not in favor of that. So he brought fire down and gave it to the humans. And for that, he was punished over and over and over, having an eagle come and eat his liver every day, and then it would grow back. But the Greek god of fire is Prometheus. And I tend to be one that likes to learn a lot of stuff from a lot of different areas, and then I give it out. I like to disseminate good information. So create connections, share information, bring people together, bring ideas together. I've got a big network of people with all kinds of backgrounds in those networks. And I like to be in the center as a hub. And I just connect people with people. I've only run the company for a year and a half, and I love it. It's been a blast. I've made a lot of new friends, including yourself. And but I have 20 years in the business of website design and marketing. I was the marketing director for the company I worked for before I left to start my own venture.
Nice. You said 20 years?
Yes.
Now, so and you and I talked about this when we met previously, but I think maybe even giving an attempt to do anything website related, it's a skill set that I know there's a reason why not everybody can do it, but in general, when you think about what a person is wanting to do with a website, what is it exactly that you offer to your customer?
All right. So, we bring websites to the market, but what I specifically and what the team of people I've surrounded myself with like to do is, like I was saying, we like to connect things. So I want to be able to connect your website or your web store to your CRM and your ERP. Okay. I want to be able to bring all these different connections. So we're not just about making a website that's a digital business card or billboard on the internet. I mean, that's the purpose of many, many websites. And when people say websites, I think it's kind of comical. I see it on the forums a lot. It was like, hey, can you get an AI that'll build me a website? It's like every AI in the planet can build you a website. A website can be a web server with a single file that's a HTML file that says index. And then you have a website. So the difference between a website that's just a single page and Amazon, which is a fortress or a gigantic multi-story skyscraper in terms of websites, right? Is night and day. So you can have a wagon, you can have a motorcycle, you can have a BMW, you can have an entire, a cruise liner. So the question is, what do you really want? And so I tend to build things that connect the dots between systems. So that's what PrometheanLink does.
Nice. Well, and so as I mentioned, we met each other. We both took a kind of a seminar of sorts. It was a 3-day live seminar through Drone Command. I don't know if I specifically asked you about how you got to want to do drones. I'll just share briefly how I got interested in drones. My father and his brothers, and his siblings, because I have an aunt, inherited some property, and I just became interested in wanting to look at it, but it's landlocked. So in order to get to it, I would have to trespass through somebody's property, and I couldn't figure out who owned it. So I began looking into drone stuff. And you know how it is when you get to a website or those people and you start looking, they have ways of knowing that you were there. All of a sudden, I started getting all this drone stuff. And I was interested enough. It seemed like you could get. Would you agree that it was pretty good value for what they were telling you that they could teach you about?
100%. And, I wanted to give a plug anyways, and I'm not getting paid for this. I just thought the guys were really, really smart, really cool. Love the whole entire thing. And it's kind of the same way, like you just said. I was on Facebook when I saw this little ad pop up, had zero intention on signing up for a drone class. But there's a little background to why I went forward with it. But honestly, it just took my attention, and I thought, you know what? I want to add photography because all my websites have video or photographs. And I had just done a photo shoot with a GoPro, and I had to climb up on the side of an overpass to take the video. And it was dangerous, and I almost fell in the road. And I was like, if I had a drone, that would have been super simple, right? Just get the drone up there, boom, you got it. Well, so as soon as it was like the night I was working on the site, and that ad pops up, and I was like, okay, cool. Yeah. I had no idea that it was going to be like a month later. I literally thought I was going to sign up for a little video tutorial, and that was going to be it. And I thought I was paying $100 for a video tutorial, and I thought that was worth it. And I didn't know it was going to be 3 days either. That kind of, at first it irritated me. It just so happened to be lucky on my part that I had the 3 days to do it, because normally my schedule is crazy, and there was no way I was going to be able to do 3 days on a normal week, but it just happened to be. So I took the class, and the first day I was like, oh my God, they put so much juice into that class from the first day. And it's like they set the hook. I was a fish on the line because they literally just gave so much good information. I was like, how could it get any better? What are they going to teach me that I don't know? And the second day was almost better than the first because the second day was marketing. Now, I will be honest. I recognize and knew a lot of what they taught, but they brought such a fresh perspective to it. Yeah, that I was like, this is brilliant. Now, and unfortunately, go ahead.
I happen to have won the, I don't know if you remember, but I won, I can't even remember what it was called, but it was like a deep dive into some marketing kind of stuff, right? And I listened, in fact, this is the interesting part is that I had been talking to my wife about the drones, just the drone business that I wanted to create, kind of. And I started, I was up here for 3 days, and she's like, what are you doing? We had to travel to Florida to visit her brother. And that's when I decided I was going to have her listen to them, what we had available, the one thing that I won. So she started hearing it. And then I began kind of putting my ideas about, Drone Hand Solutions. And she was, you got to do this, and you could do that, and you could do that. And she bought it, right? But still, now I still have a long ways to go. But I have with support we could do a lot, right? So she was there with it, and now I've been working, including having meetings with you. Now let's get to the meeting that you and I had. You kind of broke out, show me some designs, and I think it's clear that your work is beautiful. But what did we kind of come to the agreement in at the end of that meeting, which brings us here?
I mean, we talked that we were going to do this podcast. That was one of the outcomes. And, I could tell that right now wasn't the best time for us to work together, just for a couple different reasons. But it was like, I like this guy. I want to keep hanging out. There's a good connection there. And then you threw out the invitation. I was like, oh yeah, I'm on that. Let's do it.
Yeah.
I've always wanted to be on a podcast.
For sure.
So, I mean, no matter what happens in life, it's what you do with it, right? Everything's an opportunity if you think the right way.
I agree. So, and when we were discussing a couple things, we came across one thing in particular that I told you that I had seen, which was in the news, which is the fires in California. Now, I don't know if you've ever had fire in your lifetime or had to deal with it, but when I was younger, I'm going to say I was about maybe 5 or 6 years old, maybe 7. I remember to this day being at church at my mother's choir rehearsal, and kind of like when President Bush heard about the towers going down, and somebody leaned in and whispered in his ear. Somebody did something very similar to that, and she had this look on her face, and then she grabbed us up, took us to our grandmother's house. And what I remember about everything else was the devastation, because my sister and I had these little porcelain boy and girl. We slept in the same room with their praying on their knees in pajamas, pink and blue, right, over our beds.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you've ever seen or heard people talk about the stuff that they throw out to get the fuel out of the apartment or the house or whatever. That's what they did to all of our stuff. And when we got on the property, I was like, Mom, why did they throw everything outside? She's like, that's what you got to do, whatever. So full circle to where we are now, and we have an incident where there is a drone that hit a plane. Now, you've obviously heard about that, right? What were your thoughts when you heard about it?
Man. Well, my thought was, God almighty, drones have been in the news so much lately, and not in a good positive light. Yeah. And it really kind of bothers me, because I know of all the good that can be done with a drone. Okay, everything's a tool, right? A hammer. You can build a house, you can smash your thumb with it, bust yourself in the head. Okay, sure. It's the same thing with anything that's a tool. And drones are just a tool. Okay, and this guy that was putting a drone in the air during the middle of a freaking fire breakout was a tool himself, a different kind of tool. Okay. And I mean, my first thought, and this is probably not a nice thought, but I would like to beat the shit out of that guy. Sorry. I hope you can handle that on your podcast. But that's what I would do. I mean, honestly, yeah, no, it's going to go bad. I'm sorry.
I was in the Air Force. My mom was in the Navy.
Okay. All right. So yeah, that was my first thought. Was like, if I knew who that was, I would drive to his house and I would just bust his nose. But besides that, I thought to myself, first of all, we got a problem. We got a problem with the anti-drone mindset. And it's because people in general don't trust each other in the world anymore. We live in an antitrust environment. And I remember when I was a kid in the 80s, you didn't lock your car door. You could go to the mall and you could leave your car unlocked. You could leave your door unlocked at night. Walk in and out of the house without having to worry about the keys. Now you got to have a camera to make sure somebody's not stealing your packages from Amazon on the front door. What happened?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, come on.
So my sister and I were latchkey kids. Even in a foreign country, did we travel daily to get to the school that we went to? Not the school on base, but we traveled 30 minutes walking to the front gate, and about an hour ride on train and bus to get to school. And we did that there and back. We never had to worry about getting snatched up, especially not in Japan. Now, I don't know if the same thing happened in America, but we did live in Washington, D.C., and we had a similar trek that we did bus and train. Metro Rail was kind of cool. And that was like, 78, 9, 85, 86, right around that area.
Sure.
Didn't have to worry about that stuff. But you bring a good point, that the trustworthiness that we have with each other. I'll tell you one thing.
Right.
I was looking at somebody, and I don't know if you heard this story. It was a guy that what he did, you see, it was a short, and he goes and he says, I must be the luckiest person. I might try to find it. I must be the luckiest person in the world. And he kind of tells the story how he was traveling down the road, and he was putting gas. Well, he put gas in his car, and he put $10,000 on the edge of right above the tank. And then he takes his camera and he pans and he goes,
my heart just sank to the bottom of my chest when I just found this out. I think I've got to be the luckiest guy in the world right now. You're not going to believe this. So I left this morning I'm headed down to Florida to buy a boat. And when I left this morning, I had $20,000 in cash that I set right here on the edge of the bed while I was fueling my truck up before I left to head down to Florida.
And it's still here after traveling for 4 hours. Now, in the very beginning, I'll admit, I did think, wow, that's a cool story. But then I kind of got skeptical. And I did the same thing with my wife. I showed her the video. And then all of a sudden, I was like, well, what about this? Now, would you believe that the same guy had some other far-fetched ass story about, well, I can't remember what it was. So it's like a guy who does this repeatedly. Now I'm gonna dig into it. There's no reason for me to think he might be lying, but there is.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Well, there's a problem in our society that we can't trust each other with simplest things. We really, and to be honest with you, just today I found 2 fraudulent transactions on one credit card and 4 on another. What is wrong with people?
Really?
What is happening? Yeah, because I hadn't looked at it in a while. My wife just brought it up because we had a nice Saturday to kind of relax and look at some stuff together. And she says, hey, do you have Geico? I don't have Geico. Why is Geico on our transactions? 4 transactions, $700. Wow. Drones can be an amazing tool for people if they are used properly and wisely.
Oh, wow. Now, and we know now, okay, so I know you're going to be taking the test, right? Pretty soon.
Yes.
I mean, now, just out of curiosity, how prepared do you think you are? I'm not going to test you.
No, it's fine. You can. I'm at 62% in the class. I'm taking the Pilot Institute class, which I think is fantastic. Okay. Mm-hmm. But my problem is I juggle it between other things. So I got one website I'm working on. Okay, I got a couple hours. Let's do another section. Okay. Yeah. So it's taken me since mid-November when I bought the class to get through to 62%. Now, when I take the little test, I got a test on my phone. I go through. I'm acing that. First of all, let me just say this. The FAA, if there's any group in America that has got their stuff together, it's the FAA. They have thought through everything.
Now, when you so I took it twice. I failed it the first time.
Wow.
Now check this out. I'm a believer in putting things out in the universe, but I shit you not. I was talking to my wife, and I said, I am going to be pissed if I miss it by 1 point. Do you want to know what happened?
You put it out there.
I failed. You got to get a 70. I failed with a 69. And when I gave you go to a testing center, there was somebody in the room with us, and she had my score that she was giving it to me. The way that she came up to me, I knew that she was being discreet and that I had failed, and she was telling me that I came back. Now, when I went back and studied, I knew what was the problem. Part of the problem was this. I was familiar with the material, but there are certain things that you have to understand and know. And the reason why I bring this up is you can see in the background, there's a sectional there, and it talks about airspace. The person who flew in the space that he was flying either knew that he shouldn't be there, or he didn't know that he shouldn't be there, and he put himself in one of the first cardinal rules that they tell you is you kowtow to all the other aircraft around you. He should not have been flying where he was.
It made a 3 by 6 inch hole in that plane. And that thing weighs like nothing. It's like a coffee cup. So DJI just removed geo restrictions. So you can actually accept that you're going to take full responsibility on the app and fly in a class B or C airspace without it stopping you. Up to this point, the software stopped you. You couldn't get any closer. But now it's going to let you go wherever. Yes. So you've got LANC that you can use to get approval, right? LANC's not going to approve you, but you can still do it. That's dangerous, in my opinion.
I agree.
Just because the stupid people are going to do stupid things.
And this is the thing. Now, having gone through the process, and by the way, the Drone Command stuff that we went through, they have a section that tells you how you can go register for the test, what to expect, all that stuff. So I had already pre-registered my drone, and I had gone out and done a couple of different things just recreationally, and I was fine flying my drone. But I would be concerned if I was out flying and I lost my drone, particularly if there was a plane around. I would be concerned that it was going to come back to me. This guy is likely in a bunch of trouble. Or it could be a
For
girl. Don't get
sure.
me wrong, right?
Right.
This
Right.
individual
No,
is
100%.
likely in a world of trouble. Yep.
Yeah, so he's going to be in trouble. And then there's this guy out in New York. Did you see about the Michael Leone Ellie or whatever his name is, retired fire chief? He faked his 107 certificate. People are stupid. Why? I don't understand. I mean, he's a retired fire chief. He should know better. This kid or whoever it is that put the drone in front of the plane, again, I don't know, man. I'm a big believer in freedom and personal responsibility, but freedom has to be matched with responsibility. And I'm not a big fan of putting more rules in place, but the rule that should be in place is I should go find that guy and show him a lesson so that he doesn't do that again. Because it sickens me to my stomach to know that we've got great technology, great infrastructure. I mean, the FAA has done a brilliant job of thinking through every possibility, and yet some stupid is going to screw it up for everybody.
I agree. And this is prior to anybody probably trying to get in and capture images or whatever. But you mentioned PyroSense. Is that what you said?
PyroSense, yes, sir.
This PyroSense.
I'm going to try to explain it in the most layman words possible, so I'm not going to overly complicate it because it's got some sophistication.
Explain it to me like I'm a child.
I'll give you a little bit of background just so you know the context, because it's kind of crazy that it would end up in my hands like this. But so I do a little bit of programming, and I go online and I'm in forums, right? So I met this guy named George, and I had no idea who George was. All I knew was that he's a great programmer and he shared some really fascinating code. He built his own operating system, and it's beautiful. It's not even just an operating system. It's a beautiful operating system. And he says that he's got this software for controlling drones. And I said, well, hey, man, I got a company. If you want to sell your drone software over here in the US, let me know. So he says, look, I've got the software. It's called PyroSense. It's designed to be preventative of forest fires because we got a lot of forest fires over here in Greece. They put these smoke detectors basically in the forest, and there's sensors that are receiving CO2, temperature changes, particles, that kind of stuff. And it's sending this little tiny signal using a Sigfox transmitter, which is really low voltage, low amperage, micro signal. And that's communicating constantly temperature, CO2 levels, particles, whatever. When it senses an anomaly in the atmosphere in that area, it automatically deploys an alert signal. That sends a text, an email, and a phone call to the emergency services. It says, hey, we got an anomaly. Come check it out. So what do? You get in your car and you go out there? Maybe not. You can't be there very quickly in a car. But what you do is you do send a drone. Now, this drone flies away from Command Central. It's got AI programmed into the visual. So it's got a camera. It's got a thermal camera. It's got a regular camera. It's looking for light. It's looking for smoke. It's looking for something that's fire. It triangulates on that source of fire, and it reports, hey, confirmed sensor says right here, this is a fire. We got a fire. So what do? You send a fire truck out there? Well, maybe if the road's not obstructed. If it's obstructed, you're going to have to come up with another method. But if it's not, you send a fire truck out there, they put the fire out, right? The rule is in forest fires, if you can put the forest fire out in 15 minutes, you've prevented a big problem. Okay.
How fast does it travel? How fast does fire travel in general? Do you know?
That's a wonderful question. And I'm sure if it's got Santa Ana winds, it's traveling really fast. So I mean,
if you're saying,
it depends upon.
If you're saying 15 minutes, right?
Right.
I mean, how fast can you travel in 15? We could probably figure it out, but 15 minutes. It's too. Okay. Yeah, that's right. You're a science teacher.
We could do it. Yeah, that's funny. I was a science teacher for years. Loved it.
You know what they say? Like, how often do you ever have to use your math and whatever, blah, blah, blah. There's been plenty of times when I think about a problem and I sit down with my pen and I figure it out.
It uses AI. It identifies the source of fire. And if you can't get to that fire, it deploys a secondary drone. It's this big old gigantic drone. It's a lot bigger than the small one it does for the reconnaissance. And that one brings a payload that has like not a golf ball. It's about a soccer ball size deployment. And that thing explodes, putting white powder all over the fire. It's basically the same stuff that's in fire extinguishers. Puts the fire out. So you got a primary identifier, and then you got a secondary that's going to go put it out. So that's really a very simple system. There's plenty of videos, and there's case studies and proof of this situation working online. Even the Discovery Channel UK has done a big, beautiful, like a 25-minute, expose on using this system. It's well known across the globe, but it's just not known in the United States. And I have had a very challenging time getting that information in front of people that care.
Well, I was just going to say, as crazy as it is, and as destructive as fire is to forestry and all that stuff, isn't it actually a necessary process? Like,
Oh, absolutely.
in order for certain things to
Yeah,
happen naturally,
100%.
fire
I'm a
needs to actually.
biologist.
Okay, so
Yeah.
it serves a purpose, but I guess uncontrolled, right? Like, I mean, lightning is as random as it is causes
Mhm.
fires, but maybe it's different when a person or people get involved and they do things that cause fires. Is that what it is?
I would agree with that. So, okay, from the biological perspective, you got to have a certain temperature to open up certain pine cones that will then release their seeds so that they can actually reproduce and create new trees. Okay.
Wow.
And that's not the only example of a life form that needs that. Okay.
Sure.
When you burn all that detritus and it goes back into the soil, it puts all kinds of phosphorus and magnesium and all kinds of things that are necessary for life. Is it destructive? Absolutely. Why do humans? I mean, the best case scenario is that we go in there and we work with nature and we go do controlled burns under control. I mean, people have been doing that. That's what we do. That's what humans are doing. We work with the land, we figure out what works, and we take care of it. But in California, I'm not even going to get into politics because I'm not, I really feel like you can really pollute anything with politics, okay? Because here's the thing, politics, the left and the right, they should be working together. I'm so sick and tired of this gotta win society. All I do is win, 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 no matter what. Well, guess what? Sometimes you gotta lose and compromise, dumbass. Sometimes you gotta play the part. And, you know, a good engine does like this, okay? It goes back and forth, and that's what generates torque, and that's what moves the car forward. But we're not trying to move forward. We're trying to get stuck. I want to win. I want to win. And we're losing. We're all losing because we're all trying to win. Stop trying to win. Start trying to compromise. Get to the middle. Understand it's a process. It's a system. Don't think that you got to be right all the time. Anyways, don't get me started. It gets me fired up.
Whatever extreme you lie in, if you're going to come to any agreement with anyone, it's in the middle where it is that you can find resolution, right? Because if you continuously keep going in the opposite direction, then you're never going to find a place where you agree. You have to find a place where you understand it and compromise. Otherwise, there's just be fighting all the time.
I got an idea that I wish to share with the world. And it's such a simple concept, okay? I was in the industrial pump industry for the last 20 years as a marketing director. And there's a simple idea called best efficiency point. Okay. Best efficiency point. It's a physics term. It's an engineering term. And a centrifugal pump, when it turns that little, the impeller inside of the pump, it generates flow and pressure. Okay. And there's a system which has all kinds of friction in it, all the pipe diameters and all the different things on the coatings on the inside of the pipe that creates friction. So that's your system. And between the pump pushing against that pipe, it creates pressure. And that pressure can change depending upon the signature, what's called the best efficiency point of that system. Okay. We don't think like that. We think we got to win. I got to be the best. I got to be the top. The system's going to push against you. That system's got to be there because you know what happens when you run a pump wide open with no restriction? It's called run out. It draws all the horsepower out of the engine and it overamps the motor and it shuts the whole thing down. You got to have some back pressure. You can't constantly just be wide open. So there's a best efficiency point. And we could use that same idea in society. We could use that same idea in education. We could use that same idea in politics. We need to think in terms of the best efficiency point, which is not one guy winning or one team winning or whatever. It's a system that works together. Why have we missed that very simple concept? Because we all have an ego, and that ego says, I got to win. But you know what? I'm an old school person. My mom taught me different. It wasn't about always winning. It was about making things better for everybody.
I agree. And do you think that the mentality of always winning keeps us from collaborating, for example, with other countries?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, so the best efficiency point between capitalism and socialism is what America ought to be. Okay. We should be in the middle. We should have public roads, public libraries, public utilities, and personal privacy and personal property. And I don't see how in the world we don't see the obviousness of that. Okay.
Well,
We should.
now some people will say, just to play devil's advocate for a second, some
Go
people
for
will
it.
say
Of course.
that we weaken ourselves by welcoming any of that.
Okay.
Now, I'm not going to say I agree or disagree. I'm just throwing it out there because I've heard it.
No, I love to debate both sides. I could go on both sides. So let's do that. Let's take that for a couple of spins.
Sure.
Okay. Does it weaken yourself? Okay, let's put it into sports because everybody freaking loves sports. Everybody wants to know about sports. Okay. What happens when you lose? Do you just go destroy the other team? Do you give up? You go home? You quit? No, you take it as a lesson. Okay. If you don't win, you learn. That's the way you do everything in life. If you don't succeed when you try, it's the most data-rich environment you can be to learn what to do next time. If you don't give up. So to me, I think that middle ground is not a weak spot. The dumbass thinks he's got to win. You know, the worst position you can be in is to have just got a success because you don't question yourself. You think that success means that you are absolutely right and that you deserve to win. And guess what happens? You're not paying attention anymore. You turned your brain off.
Yeah, proof of failure. Failure allows you to prove a concept to success, right? Yes. So, I mean, without failure on so many levels, I mean, if we always succeeded in our first endeavor every single time,
it's the worst thing for you. You don't learn nothing. You think you're good.
Right, exactly. I mean, just imagine our forefathers having not struggled on some level to conceptualize freedom. Right, we all can feel what freedom is, right? We know if we're free or not,
right?
And if it's only affecting you, and you're free, then everybody else be damned. We're far ways away from a damn drone. but
yeah, I know. Scope creep happens to me every day, man. It's the hardest thing in the world to stay on track. That's why I told you I love it when we go off track. It's good.
That's funny. No, and. I'm from the very beginning of when we started to where we are now, it has been obviously a pleasure to speak with you. You're clearly a bright guy. You're clearly a bright guy.
Too, for sure.
Thanks, man.
Yeah, man. Are we done? I don't want to be done. I love this.
We got a few minutes, I'm sure. Let's. Did you see anything in the chat that caught your eye? If you did,
I don't see the chat. Show me how to do that. I would love to see the chat.
Oh, you know what? What you can do
is... my God, there's all kinds of stuff over here.
I don't know if you guys saw this or you can see or not, but let me put both of us here. But I named the show Breaking Bad Discussion, Drones and Websites, because obviously Walter, he's a website guy. We both are kind of dabbling in drones. But I have this shirt. I'm just going to stand up a little bit. It has that guy right there. Now, if that is not a spitting image of you, I don't know what is. And it's Mr. Walter White to speak, the boot.
Yeah, I get that a lot. I get it at the gym. And I was a science teacher for years, and I could build all kinds of chemicals. So it's a little bit fitting, but I have never tried making meth or anything like that. So I have made chemicals, but I have never made anything that was an intoxicant. But
so what do you think about, now, there was another story that I had, and I just to briefly kind of touch on what it was about. That the Pentagon blacklisted Chinese drones maker Autel Robotics. Do you know who that is?
Oh, of course, the orange ones. I want one just because my company colors are orange. So I just wanted to have one just because it matched. I got one on my website because it looks so good. The problem, there is one Autel drone that is manufactured in the U.S. The parts come from China, but it is manufactured in the U.S. Just one model. That's the one thing about Autel is kind of weird. If you go through the reviews, some of them are amazing and have like all kinds of rave reviews, and the other one's a dud. So I don't, it's not a very consistent brand at this point. I honestly don't understand what we have so bad against China. I mean, that's going to make me sound very weird. And I'm not like a communist sympathizer. That's not where I'm getting at. I love capitalism. I love freedom. I don't want somebody to tell me what to do. But if you look at the technology that's coming out of China, they're clearly smart. And I think as an intelligent person, you can actually learn stuff from your enemy if you pay attention, if you think they're your enemy. And I don't personally think that China has to be our enemy. Obviously, they're part of the planet Earth, and I'm part of the planet Earth. And if you go to the moon and you look at the planet Earth, we're all one. The only reason we separate ourselves is because we play these word games like, oh, that's China. They do things different. They're a whole bunch of different people. That's a mind game. That's an imagination. It's like boundaries and all that stuff is made up. We've agreed to that, but it's made up.
Well, let's just for a second try to pinpoint if there was a thing or concept that you and I would say is definitely dangerous for America when it comes to China. Is there that something that you, or do you think that there is that something? I mean, that's kind of a broad ass question. That might be a broad question.
But I'm gonna think in terms of physics. Okay, here's where China is a threat to America. Ready? It's not where we think. Okay, China's economy allows them to sell us goods at a price that we can't compete with.
That's a good point.
It's not because China has some philosophical difference in the way they view the world. Okay. It's what I call a potential gradient. Okay. When you put high charge over here and a low charge over there and you put a wire to them, bam, you got a connection. Okay. That's what we got with China. We got really cheap labor, really cheap goods, and you got a bunch of people over here that got a lot of money and want to spend it. That's where we have a problem. So if you think about electricity and you think about heat and you think about transfer, okay, what you do is you regulate those things with a valve. You put a little valve in between the two, okay? That's what tariffs are. That's what taxes are. That's what all these things are. So but see, the general population doesn't think like that. They think I got to win. Those are the bad guys. I'm the good guy. It's always me. I'm always the good guy. We can never be the bad guy. Even when we go blow up people, we're still the good guy because we did it for good reasons,
All of the things that we think about China and capitalism and all those kind of things, people wanting the cheapest way to make something and provide a service. What needs to be regulated, winning is fine. But when you get to the point of greed, then it becomes problematic, right? Because people then want to go, they want to cut corners, they want to not have the quality product, whatever, et cetera, et cetera. If all of those standards remain the same and you find a product that you've made that is cheaper, I'm all for that. But you get people who get damn greedy.
And the world, to be honest with you, is not so polarized. Very little things in the world are absolutely 100% this or 100% that, okay? And we got to stop thinking in all or nothing propositions. It's not a binary universe. It's a very gray universe that changes and oscillates. And over time, if you think about it, things obviously are not always one way or another. I mean, even looking at the Constitution of the United States of America, we don't interpret our laws the same way they did 100 years ago or 200 years ago.
Sure. Because there's so many more newer things, newer concepts. Right. Technology is different, access to information, but that's why the Constitution breathes, right? It breathes
it's
because
a living document, right?
Now it's a living, and I completely agree with that. And we face scenarios like us having drones. I mean, I have flown a drone myself. In fact, I had never done one until I bought one. But I'm very cognizant of the types of things, even having done, First Amendment audit type things, where I can see somebody be concerned about you flying over my property, et cetera.
Oh, 100%. Sure.
And the impetus for my desire to do business with a drone doesn't have anything to do with looking at somebody through a window. You know what I'm saying? That's where we.
That's nothing to see, man.
Exactly. That's where our ideas are pure, when we know that the intent that we have in mind is also pure, right?
Let me give you a perfect example of good intent gone wrong. Okay. Do you like cereal?
I do, yes.
Do you like Frosted Flakes and all that stuff?
Frosted Flakes,
I'm not trying
grape nuts.
Yeah. Right. The guy that started the Kellogg's Corporation, do you know anything about him?
No.
This is fact. You can look it up on your own time whenever you feel like this is interesting, if you find it interesting, okay? He was a very well-intentioned religious man, and he thought he was going to help the male population in the United States to stop masturbating, because he thought that that was a violation against God and against the Bible. So he put a lot of, and this is not made up, this is proof that you can go read it, okay? He wanted to eliminate red meat from the diet to reduce the amount of testosterone in males, okay? And that's why he started that whole entire company to make vegetable-based foods, including the cereals, okay? This was from his good intentions. That's the only problem I have with good intentions, is that when you have good intentions, you always forget that you're not all-knowing.
Yeah,
That's the one thing.
You know what? That's a very good point, and I'm gonna have to revisit what I really mean when I say that. And your point is well taken.
Mhm.
I mean, you can defile a project or a process with good intentions gone wrong, right?
Mhm.
Is basically what you're saying. No, I get you for sure.
I got a
Now,
perfect example. I mean, I'll give you a quick one. I know I can talk too long. When I was back in 2005, the first time I built a web store, okay? My web store went crazy. I was like, this was back when eBay was brand new. I was neck to neck with eBay on the internet with the pumpbox.com. I was going to sell industrial chemical pumps online. My boss says, ain't nobody going to spend money online like that. Those are expensive. Nobody's going to do it. Okay. Just let me do it. Let me try. So I started my own first LLC and I put the pump box online. And guess what happened? People were buying pumps from me online. I made $50,000 in 3 months online selling pumps. Okay, great. Proof of concept, no problem. Guess who that bothered the most? The sales team. Because I was setting my good intentions to help sell more pumps on for the company. People were finding my prices that was 10% lower than everybody else's. And the sales guys were saying, I just lost an order. You cut me out. They're going to you now.
wow.
Good intentions gone wrong. I didn't think through that.
Now, so wait, so then once they have gone wrong, like I'm sure you probably thought like, well, then we're not trying to lose business for you. So how about we come up with another solution that that helps? I mean, did you have something, or they were like, no, just stop doing it?
No, the solution was they were going to fire me. Okay. So that was the solution. I was getting fired. I found years later that I was going to be fired. But what I did was I sold my company to the company I was working for, and I kept my mouth shut for 6 months, and I worked my butt off as best I could to do the better job that I could. I mean, it's like my work went from like B to like A+ and better. I literally was like, Mr. Not going to make a mistake on anything, because I didn't want to get fired. I had just had a baby and I needed money, and there was no way in hell I was going to give up my future over this. Okay. I was just like, my timing is too early. But if you're interested in marketing, we'll move you up to Greensboro, where you can work and you can be our marketing director. So for the remaining 14 years, I was the marketing director for that company.
Wow.
And I ended up running websites, and it was a, it's like I said earlier, it's not what happens to you, it's what you do with what happens to you. 90% of your life isn't what happens. 10% is what happens. 90% is how you choose to respond to that. You can always take a negative and turn it positive if you have the right mindset.
Did you tell me what grade it was that you taught science?
Oh, so I interned in marine biology for high school students, and then I taught 6th, 7th, and 8th grade middle school science, which had everything. I mean, we covered geology, we covered weather, we covered some biology, we covered some electricity. I mean, it was crazy. I love the classroom. I would go back, but it doesn't pay anything.
Yeah, you know what?
That's another thing, man. The school is the worst place to go get a career.
We don't pay them enough. You're right.
No, it's because they don't generate a profit. Okay. If you study economics, and I don't mean like book economics, if you just kind of contemplate the way the world works, okay, you have pockets of money. And in order to get into those pockets of money, you have to be able to offer them something that they can't do for themselves. And education is a de facto. It is given. It is granted. So what do you do with things that are granted? You take them for granted. Okay, it's like oxygen. Ain't nobody going to pay for it. No matter how important it is, nobody's going to pay you $1 for oxygen. Now, it's like, here's the thing. If you're in the desert and you're about to die from dehydration, what's more important, a gold ring with a big fat diamond on it or a gallon of water? Okay.
Water.
Water is more important. Context, it matters. The context of the situation matters. Okay. And the problem is the context we've created in our country is that teachers are for granted. My wife's a teacher and I was a teacher. Okay. You can have a classroom with 30 students or 15 or however many you got. And you can have the best teacher in the world and still have a crappy class. And I don't mean to talk about students as being crappy, but you can have a combination of recipe of people that do not work well together. You can have one student that is a gigantic distraction. You got another one that can't speak anything that you can understand. You got another one who's got and that teacher could be a grade A, wonderful, deserve the highest pay because of the effort, the amount of extra time she puts into it or he puts into it, all the other reasons, and you're not going to give them the money because the kids in general get a C as an average. And you might have another class that's a piece of cake. I had one that was an A class. I mean, all my classes I ever taught were like the advanced science students. They were always amazing. They were the best. And I mean, was I that good? I was entertaining. I don't know if I was any better than any of the other teachers. I know I was entertaining. Maybe that was good.
Well, so you said, now I just want to clarify something. You said they don't make a profit. So I'm thinking in my mind, just on the surface, colleges and private schools. So those teachers paid well enough, or does that model break?
Oh yeah, they do.
Or stand? Okay, so then basically we're talking public schools, right?
Yeah.
In the public sector, public schools, they don't bring a profit, so to speak.
Yeah, I mean, Harvard's going to be a lot more expensive than NC State.
Sure.
Okay.
Absolutely.
And it's going to be proportionally rewarded to those teachers that are bringing in the students. Now, every time you put it into the public sector, all the rules are off. I mean, try to call the IRS and get somebody on the phone, because I had to this year. It took me 3 weeks to finally get somebody, and they finally gave me the number I needed to give to the next person. When they transferred the call, I was lost. I had to end up going to pay a lot of money to a CPA just to get in touch with the IRS because they wouldn't let you do it. Every time I've ever had to deal with the government in any capacity whatsoever, it was subpar and it was not good.
Shame. And somebody, Trump said is asking, "What's this dude's channel?" So you mentioned that you don't have a YouTube channel. We're gonna have to find a way to make that change, right?
It's your channel. I'm on your channel. That's my channel.
You got an endorsement from the man himself. Wait, today's the 18th, so Monday is it going to be Monday that the inauguration is going to happen? Oh wow.
Indoors, because it's too cold outside. It's the second time it's been done. I think Ronald Reagan had that happen too. Ronald Reagan. God, bring him back from the grave, somebody. Come on.
So your kung fu, according to Trump, said is strong. He's cool. The debate is strong. They love you in the chat, man. So we have to definitely bring you back. I mean, that's what
the chat too.
that is one thing I think is cool is when you have a vibe like it seems that we do. I mean, and this happened before we got on camera, which is why we are here now. And we kind of said that we were just going to wing it and have some fun with it, and it has been fun. I really appreciate you giving your time. I'm gonna do one more thing, which I like to ask people that I speak with that I haven't spoke with ever before.
Yeah.
And you and I are about the same age. I think you said you were 51. I just turned 51.
Yeah.
So I'm going to ask you if you can tell me a incident, a world event that sticks in your mind as you having gone through, and what were your thoughts about it, and then we'll close.
Sure. I remember 9/11 and Tim McVeigh when he blew up that building, and what else? And the space shuttle Challenger explosion. I was in like the 7th grade. I can remember that too.
Yeah.
Which one you want? Which one you want?
That's any one of those, and that's fine. And the reason why I ask is because I also remember the Challenger, and I was in Japan at the time. And I remember when we were standing at the bus, somebody said the Challenger blew up. And I was like, we were like, what? But when we got to school, there was televisions all in every hallway, and that's all we did. And the other thing was, I was in Washington, D.C. the day that President Reagan got shot, and I lived right down the street from where John Hinckley Jr. was.
I remember him.
Yeah. So that's cool.
So, but so the Space Shuttle Challenger happened in Florida, right? And I was in Winter Haven, Florida as a student. I saw it in the sky. And all of us, we didn't know what was going on. We looked, and it looked like a 2-headed dragon. Yeah. So it went up like a single stick, and then it had like a bust, and then it went into 2 different directions. Those were the 2, the solid rocket boosters, right? and it looked like a two-headed, like a dragon with two different arms coming out of it. And we didn't know what it was. We were, that was back when we were afraid Russia was going to start nuclear war. So all the kids were saying, hey, nuclear wars broke out. We forgot that Kristen McCullough was going into space because she was a teacher. Remember that? Yep. And so when we went in, it was lunchtime. And I remember what they had. They had fried chicken. And it was delicious. I used to love the fried chicken at our school. And I was looking.
So did I.
Yeah, exactly. Right. So we were going through in the line, and it was on the TVs. They had big old CRT TVs back then, with nice little flat panels. And I remember looking up, and it was like the space shuttle has just blown up, and you had all kinds of news reporters. And oh my God, the whole school was just like in shock.
Amen. It was January 28th, 1986. So I was close. Okay. I left Japan that year. Yeah. So yeah. All right. Well,
man, I would love to go to Japan. Yeah, it's been a blast, man. I really appreciate this. This has been a lot of fun.
Absolutely. I'm going to thank you. I'm going to thank everybody who stopped by. If you haven't already, please like, share, and if you haven't done so, consider subscribing. I think that we'll probably do this again. We'll go behind the scene, and we'll see if we can figure out something that we can get together. But I really enjoyed talking to you, man. Go ahead.
Let's talk about AI, because I love AI.
Yes.
That's one of my favorite subjects in the world, man.
You know what, man?
I'm building cool stuff with it.
It's funny that you say that, because I actually was introduced to it by my brother-in-law, and I had never used AI the way I do now, and I do use it quite extensively. So it is a good topic that we can talk about for sure.
We'll do that one next. Yeah.
Absolutely. You want to say anything? Any last things?
Me? No, I want to thank you. Oh, you know what? Let me throw some shout outs, okay? One to George Stillaportis, the maker of Probotech and the PyroSense software. He's a cool cat. The world needs to know about him. He's an awesome dude. He's a brilliant computer programmer. Mark Lampides, Electra Telecom. He's the first website I built when I started the company, and a great friend of mine. He's my counselor. He's my business partner. We do a lot of things together. Shout out to him. I want to say a shout out to anybody who has anybody in their family with Alzheimer's. That you know what? That's a tough one right there, guys. Really, you too? That's hard, man. And my heart is there with you. It's not an easy thing. It's probably the worst way to have somebody that you love go through that. And I just have a lot of care and sympathy for people that have that situation. And you know what? I don't usually say this very much, but I would like to thank God for letting me be on this show.
Amen. Amen. I appreciate that.
Thanks,
well, we're close it out. I really did enjoy having you on. We definitely are going to have you again. I will have a replay, and I'll put all the links for you, your soon-to-be channel, etc., all those things in, so everybody will be able to get to it. I don't know if I saw anybody who was a mod. Maybe I missed it. Brandon was, and I wasn't paying attention. Normally I would have them put those type of things in there, but we'll fix it and everything. But this is your boy Craig, otherwise known as Fact the Madness. We're going to sign off, and everyone, like I said before, whether you are on the right side or left side, all I care is that you meet me somewhere here in the middle, because we insist on being on the opposite ends of any coin and any ideal, politically, etc., then we are never going to get to a point where we can agree. So everybody take care out there. Peace. Thank you for watching. If you have a video you'd like for us to cover, use the submit link in the description or pinned comment. If you enjoyed this one, consider subscribing and hit the bell to be notified of future content. Be sure to check out all of the other content we have for your edutainment. We will continue to respectfully exercise our First Amendment rights and publish the interactions we have with government officials. Remember to like, share, and leave a comment. It's the easiest way for you to let us know your thoughts about our channel.
I wanna be the greatest. Everybody on the fake shit. I look around and feel like everybody is the fakest. I make this every day and I'm impatient, hoping one day I blow up from the basement. Statement, the top is so vacant. I don't hear shit that I think is amazing. Waiting for my day when I'm playing sold out shows for 1,000 faces. Hey, give me that crown, get in my way and to be put down. It ain't your place, all this my town. If I want that shit, then I'll get it right now. I'm losing it, the noose it fits. I'm losing shit, a stupid myth. You choose to live or choose to dip. You choose to fight or lose your grip and lose a gift. Oh,